So, like you did note, Republicans have been against proxy voting. And I know that this does predate your time in Congress, but at the height of the pandemic, over 100 GOP members of the House signed a lawsuit saying, hey, this is proxy voting is unconstitutional. So, did your carve out there change a lot of minds?
So my carve out does allow for people that had issues with it being a constitutional concern, because it does not violate the Constitution. It should make that vote easier for them, yes. And also, too, just so you know, we have a list of over 100 GOP members that did vote by proxy and over 200 Democrats. So there are people that voted by proxy, which is interesting because if they're going to not vote for this, but then they themselves voted by proxy, that's not to be accepted.
Are any of those members who voted by proxy not supporting this now?
So as of right now, depending on the numbers of members that actually voted by proxy, we haven't brought in the resolution to the floor yet. But in March, when we call it up, we'll see who decides to get onto it and who doesn't, and we'll know that answer.
I know that this legislation's focused on women who have given birth specifically, but would you be open to expanding it to moms who adopt or perhaps dads who are supporting the mothers who have given birth?
As of right now, the legislation is written very narrow. We did that because we want to ensure that it's successful, being that the members that we're addressing are literally 0.1% of the entire congressional body as a whole. But I do think that moving forward into the 119th Congress, that is something that legislators are going to have to decide is whether or not they are going to consider different, I think, proxy voting rules for if you are, for example, experiencing a death in the family, et cetera. But again, I mean, what members, at least on my side of on the aisle, on the Republican side, felt is that during 2020, during COVID, some of this proxy voting was abused. So it's really important that, one, we're not violating the Constitution, but also that these people are taking this vote seriously. And as you saw at the press conference today, Representative Tim Burchett, who never voted by proxy, said that, look, you can't fake a pregnancy. I've been able to see with my own eyes what Representative Luna has been able to do, and we need to make these exceptions for members that give birth.
I do want to ask about another exception. Representative Sarah Jacobs, who you're working on, also supported another amendment last year. Congressman Jamie Raskin supported it as well. And I want to read part of his press release talking about the amendment. He wrote this, him and his team, quote, "This amendment would allow proxy voting in narrow medical circumstances to prevent the abuse of proxy voting that occurred in the 117th Congress. The amendment allows members to vote by proxy due to a serious medical condition, including any pregnancy-related condition, or if they are the primary caretaker of a spouse or dependent with a serious medical condition, if a doctor has recommended that they not travel." Is that something you would support too down the road? I know this is super narrow right now.
I think down the road, as long as it doesn't establish a quorum and thus doesn't go against the Constitution, I would consider supporting something like that, yes.
The U.S. is the only high-income country that doesn't mandate any type of paid parental leave. Do you think, in general, the entire country has work to do in this department? Has this experience really opened your eyes to that?
This experience has absolutely opened my eyes to some of the struggles that working parents, but also to single parents face. And I think what we need to do is take this into perspective. What can we do as legislators in order to encourage businesses to not just offer some of these resources, but also to how can we use our platforms to educate the masses on these topics? And so it's a big issue to tackle. I think we can get it done, but we're starting small, mainly because this hasn't been done before. And so I'm hoping that at least at the end of the 118th Congress or the 119th Congress, we can together work and show that, moms also have a voice in legislation.
You noted in this conversation that the Republican Party is a pro-life party. They are family first. And I'm of reproductive age too. So a lot of conversations in my friend group are about affordable childcare, things like that. So do you think 6 weeks paid maternity leave is something that you could support as well?
As of right now, if I were an employer, I'd absolutely be giving that as an option to my employees. I think not only does it make your employee more productive long-term, but also to encourages a family environment. And I think right now in this country, a lot of people aren't talking about it, but we're facing a massive population decline. And so in an effort to, I think, encourage that and also to get those numbers up, I think that people should be offering that, yes.
And aside from just employers, depending on who your employer is, you get this. Do you think it should be a federal mandate?
I'm the first person that says I'm always for limited government. So I'd have to look into that more and talk about the implications with my teams about long-term on how that would impact financially these businesses and corporations. But what I can say is, having gone through this experience, it has opened my eyes. And I definitely think that as a whole, if you are trying to say that you are pro-life, pro-family, that you should be embracing this.